Hi, and welcome back to
Inspired to Game. I'm Sean.
And I'm Lola. If you like what you see here, if you enjoy our work, please subscribe to our channel to support us. I want to say thank you everybody who has already done so. I gave a challenge with our last video to help me out for my upcoming birthday to get to 100 subscribers. And we have made that goal already. We're at 104 today. And thank you everybody. And thank you for all 104 of you who who support us and are with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And of course, if you already have subscribed, if you were one of those 104, remember to hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when we drop another video.
So today we're talking about Forest of Radgost. Forest of Radgost is a fantastic storytelling game.
Now, in it, a couple of the children from the village have become lost in the Forbidden Forest, and it's up to the adults of the village to go out into the forest and search through the various paths to find them and bring them home.
Yeah, as the villagers are venturing into the forest that is filled with the unknown, that's filled with mythical creatures of renown and terror and horror and you don't know what. You're coming across various hidden encounters. Now, as you come across each encounter that happens at crossroads, you decide what you're going to do, whether you're going to hide, whether you're going to run or try to communicate or fight. And once you decide what you're going to do, you get to find out what that creature is. You open up the Book of Encounters and see how that interaction goes and how it plays out. Sometimes it's favorable and sometimes not so much. Again, our very first game of this, I literally died in my first turn. Well, I had to, yeah.
She was convalescent.
Yeah. Yeah, I ate razor blades. But yeah.
So as you travel over the forest, if you haven't reached a crossroad, you can explore the forest instead, and you'll get maybe some interesting or helpful objects or some plants and things that will help you as you encounter the other creatures. It might give you an automatic success in certain areas. As you encounter the creatures, if you are successful in your interaction with them, again, sometimes you might get some fun objects or magical objects to use in further encounters, and it's really kind of a neat role-playing feel to it.
Yeah, so things that we like about this game, it's very immersive and the art is beautiful. So the miniatures are absolutely gorgeous. If you have a retail version, you might have standees instead, but they have beautiful art as well. The Book of Encounters has really lovely art, amazing stories. So as you're playing through, you get a chance to learn about Slavic mythology and folklore in, as I mentioned, a very immersive way. That's very engaging. So as a storytelling game, this is a really wonderful experience, and as such is really great for families. So it's a great one to pull out with your kids. We brought it out with our 10-year-old. Nice thing about that is there's virtually no teach. It's pretty much you're heading out into the forest, you roll a die that determines how far you go, what direction you go, and you just deal with what your encounters are from there. So it's very easy for kids to play, and there's even an easier mode that considers children too, as far as some of the interactions and how they go. So if I was playing with kids, I wouldn't have been eating razor blades, I think, for that game.
The family-friendly version, yeah.
So we played the two of us, and we played with our son as well. And both games were very fun. So it's very immersive, and it's very fun, and it was a really neat way to learn more about that culture. Yeah, so those are some things that I really like about the miniatures are incredible, the art is incredible. Is there anything to add about what you liked about the game?
I was going to say, we mentioned the standees. Now they have the artwork on there. We actually still find them useful even with the minis, because as you look at the minis, you don't know, you're not immersed in the mythology yourself, so you can't pick one creature from another, but by having the standees, we're able to go, oh, okay, and that's number 5. Oh, I get that now. 5's a bad choice because that's wolves. If you can't recognize a wolf, then anyway.
That's impressive that you remember that 5 is wolves.
I'm pretty sure it's wolves. It's 4. I don't know.
And if he's wrong, correct him in the comments.
Yeah, ridicule me. That's what I need. So yeah, we still find every bit it's still useful and necessary, and when we still got it, and I don't know where I was going with that, but here I am now.
Well, hey, Mary met in the forest, man. It's all good. Now, some things that we didn't like as much. So for me, So it's great as a storytelling game and is great for what it is. You have to keep in mind there's absolutely no strategy to this game. So so that takes a bit of patience if you like a high strategy game. If that's your preference, this may not be for you. If you like a storytelling game where it almost has that feel like a choose your own adventure. So you get to maybe choose what do you do this or do that, but from there you're following the line of a predetermined path in that way. So a lot can come up, but there's no strategy, there's no agency to your characters, or very little. Like even with the guessing, like do you run, do you fight? Well, you know, very often you're just picking what your highest stat is, really, because there's no preference, you have no clue as to what's best to do. So so yeah, that's something to keep in mind about the game.
Yeah. For instance, when you roll dice to move, you will roll the distance dice, and then you'll move that number of steps. Now, if you hit a crossroads, one of the other dice that you roll is the direction die, and that tells you are you going left or right when you reach a crossroads. And now at the beginning of each of those turns, you get to choose the direction you start off in. So if you started down the wrong path, you can backtrack. But again, I think as we found with our game with our son, trying to get away from where we found the kids, we kept on going down the wrong path and turn around and roll to go back and take the wrong path again. So really back funny. And forth and back and forth.
Yeah, because it literally was like, well, it was, but it was also a little frustrating because we were there and it's like, now we went left. It's like, okay, now we need to go the other way. And it happened that we rolled right, but then, okay, but then we went left again. And then it's like right. And then now left. And it literally was about 10 minutes of just having a horrible rolls of constantly going in the wrong direction and trying to go back and forth. And it was a little bit meaningless and it did get a little bit tedious. Yeah.
Now, you don't have to. Now, as you travel through the forest, you can travel as a group. You can travel on your own. Now, if you are traveling on your own and one of the other players finds the kids and gets them back to the village while you're still lost out in the forest, as soon as they get back to the village, nobody else has to roll the direction die anymore. So anybody still lost in the forest can just choose their own path. But again, the kids have to get back there first for the villagers to sound the horn, to sound the all clear, to let everybody else know that, hey, you can come back now, we found them.
Well, you have 3 days in order to bring the children back, and there is a little visual for this, and as you have successful encounters with various mythical creatures, you put them along and it measures the time, first for a day and then for an evening and then a night variant. What's really cool about that, though, is that when it gets to night, that's when you as a villager, you're sleeping, but instead all the mythical creatures come out and are put on the board. You roll the dice to see which ones move, and they actually can encounter each other and defeat each other, or encounter you if they come across where you are. So that's a really interesting thing. But what we found, and this was one thing I don't quite understand with the game, is that so you have 3 nights, three whole rounds, and it plays 45 to 60 minutes, it said, but it took us in both games we played about 2 hours. And for each game, we only really got through 1 full day and kind of into the next one. So if that was 2 hours, if you were actually to play 3 full days, it's like how much time that would be. So there seemed to me to be a bit of a discord with how long the game was. And it did start to feel like a little bit long. Like I would like to house rule for this one that once you find the children, you don't have to do the direction dice anymore because you found them. You've already it's actually a really neat mechanism because it mimics, you're lost in the forest, you're meandering around, you don't know where they are, and it works really well for that. But once you find the children, while you've got there one way, it makes sense that you kind of have an idea of how to get back, and it can get kind of a bit tedious. And because the creatures do move through those evening phases and stuff, you can still, with not having to worry about direction dice, you can still be encountering more creatures, but it can speed up that last tail end of the game that, at least with 2 plays, got a little bit tedious for us. Yeah, and
I'm still a little confused. So in the first phase, it's daytime as you encounter the creatures and you successfully your encounter with them is successful. They move on to that time track. So they're no longer into the forest. Now when you reach evening, you're supposed to take all of the tokens, all the hidden tokens, because some of them will have been revealed, and the ones off of the time track, and scramble them up and put them back out into the forest. but you leave the figures or the minis on the time track so you know that you've already encountered them. So I'm still confused as to, are we supposed to be re-encountering these creatures again? And then you go into the evening where you can still encounter them. I think it's only 3 more. But when you get into the nighttime and they can go out and they can encounter each other and defeat each other onto the time track, well, the next phase is daytime again, and you're just going to take them all out and put them back onto the board. So I'm not clear, why are they encountering each other and defeating each other during the night when it really has nothing to do with us because we're already asleep.
Well, I think it's partially so that because they might be encountering us too, right? So and by defeating each other, that's what's moving the time clock forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that they, of course, can encounter us as we sleep.
Yeah, but then that's also, and it's just that time mechanism. So it's a really neat time mechanism that each encounter is what moves the time forward and is what, being a cooperative game, that's the clock that that kind of pushes you, that you have. It's pretty much a game that you're going to win most of the time, except, as I mentioned, we had a really bad start on our first game. That was really disastrous, and suddenly I thought, oh my gosh, this game is going to be so hard. And it wasn't. It's pretty easy from there. We just had a really bad encounter for our first encounter. We both had it and both didn't make it. But other than that, I think it's a game that we're glad that we kickstarted. We're glad that we have. It will stay in our collection. It won't be making the table a whole lot, but it will be coming out maybe a few times a year. And one thing is, we did have fun. It was fun to play. So immersive, and it was fun. We laughed, we joked around. What helped me with it is like, okay, knowing that this isn't a strategy game, we're not trying to get points, it's not about a winning or losing, it's about being immersed in the experience and the story that you're creating. And that story is somewhat phenomenal. Like, these creatures are amazing, and the book has really cool backstories. So as you're going along, it's a rewarding story that unfolds. So recognizing it for what it is helpful, and it's definitely a good game. So if that's a type of game that's of interest to you, I would recommend it.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, our 10-year-old had a lot of fun with it as well, and I think that's that's going to be the drive to the table, is when he wants to play something with us. He's not really into high strategy right now, so this is a perfect game to play with him.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. One last thing to mention is replayability. So, because you might be wondering how replayable is a game like this, because each encounter is different, and there are so many various ways it can be encountered, and even it's different whether you're encountering them in the day or the night. There's a lot of variation of how games can go through. Same thing with the characters that you play, but on top of that, there are mini expansions as well, kind of like a story that unfolds. Actually, I read through it, and it looks like it'll be really fun to play. So mini expansions really add to the replayability, and the game also comes with story cards to pretty much kind of like create your own stories using this.
Oh, the story dice.
The story dice, yeah. Did I say cards? I mean dice. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today to delve into the Forest of Radgost.
Thank you very much. And as always, check out some of our other videos. If you like what we see, please subscribe. And if you already have subscribed, thank you again.
Thanks for joining us. Happy gaming, folks.
Bye-bye.